You're listening to Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks with your host, Aaron Moss.
Welcome everyone to this episode of Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks. My name is Aaron Moss. I'm a computer expert with over 20 years of office equipment technology experience. This is the show that educates the lost, the weary, and those that claim to know nothing about computers and technology. The world is turning more and more tech, and so should you. We hope to answer all of your computer questions in bite-sized portions to improve your computing. This is episode 9 of 10 total episodes, all dealing with ways to speed up your computer, 101 ways to be exact. Too much info for one episode, so we made 10 episodes full of ways to speed up your computer. Listen to all 10 episodes to get the greatest benefit. That moves us to way number 81, and that is to take time to learn the software. All types of software has instructions of how to use it, what is included in the software, and most importantly, or one of the most important things, is how to use the software and what the requirements for the software is. Some pieces of software were created with a certain type of computer in mind. Some were made for a certain operating system on for example, Windows platform. Sometimes they're made with Windows 7 in mind. Sometimes Windows 8 or Windows 10 or specific build of Windows 10 in mind. Make sure that whatever software you're using falls within the boundaries of what that software has been developed for. If you are using a software where the build is earlier than what the software actually calls for, you may end up with bad performance. If you use a software that is too late for the software that you've purchased or the software that you're using, you may have hyper performance where the program is actually running too fast. Now you may be thinking, well, what's the problem with the program running too fast? Well, suppose you're playing a game and the game needs to run at a certain speed in order for you to even enjoy it. So let's say that you have a character moving around the screen. You would like to see the animation of this character moving around the screen instead of it zipping across, or the timing on the game running all the way to 0 within a few seconds when it's supposed to be like 5 minutes. So you could run into some hyper performance issues or lower or under performance issues. So you want to be in the right area of what the game was actually built for. This comes into play with a lot of types of software or even games that are older. Maybe something that's not necessarily downloaded off the internet, but games or programs that you may still have the DVD drive for or the original CD for. So just because something worked on Windows 7 or earlier version of Windows does not necessarily that it will work perfectly fine on Windows 10. In some cases, you'll have to downgrade or have a completely separate system that matches all of the drivers and all of the technology that was available at the release time of that software. That moves us on to way number 82, and that is to use cut and paste. I had a customer who was listing things on eBay. He had a golf business and he would buy and sell these golf shirts and golf accessories, but he didn't know anything about cut and paste. So when he was making these eBay listings and I showed him how to do a cut and paste, it would take him pretty much all day to make 10 listings. And then after I showed him cut and paste, he says, "Hey, I just did 10 listings in less than an hour." Because prior to that, he was retyping and typing the same ads in the same words over and over again. Cut and paste is an invaluable tool that many people use over and over. It allows you to take a set of characters or even graphics, and either right-clicking it and click copy or cut will allow you to move that information anywhere you want and paste it unlimited amount of time, so long as it stays within the clipboard. When you copy or cut something, it goes into an invisible piece of memory on the computer called the clipboard. Once it's on the clipboard, you can paste it or place it anywhere within the computer, whether it be in another program or in a Word document or Notepad or in an email or on a website, or you can fill out forms. Any program, you can take any text or image and move it to something else within that same computer. It's very, very valuable. For example, when you have a really, really long website URL with all kinds of complicated symbols and letters and numbers and alphanumeric characters on it, you can just highlight the whole thing, right-click and push copy, or hit Control-C for copy on your keyboard, and then you can just place that long, complicated URL anywhere in any application that you have. So it's a very, very fast way to just click and drag or copy information to something else where it is needed, so that you can move on with whatever computing that you're doing. It's a very, very nifty thing. It's something that I use almost every day, and most computer users find it to be a very, very invaluable tool, and it has all kinds of uses, and it's very, very fast. Way number 83 is to remove passwords where possible. Now, this is kind of obvious how this would speed up your computer experience, because if you don't have to spend time punching in passwords all the time, you'll have a faster user experience. This includes account passwords for when you turn on your computer, passwords for different websites, or even auto filling of passwords on various different sites. If the password is automatically filled in, you don't have to take time to actually type out your password every time. It's a lot faster to just click and let it go through. There is obviously challenges with running this, because the faster a computer runs without passwords, the more vulnerable it is for attacks. Now, that doesn't mean that you will be attacked, but obviously if somebody steals your computer, or somebody has access to your desk or to your computer without your knowledge, obviously there would be nothing stopping them to doing something more on your computer. So you do want to have some sort of security, but since this show is all about speed, removing all your passwords will definitely speed you up and get you through to the next window of whatever it is that you have to do. So removing passwords where possible can speed up your computer experience. Way number 84, and this is to use keyboard-friendly passwords. So let's say that you don't want to completely remove all your passwords, but you still want to have some level of security. So what you can do is you can have what's called keyboard-friendly passwords, or so basically what that means is you can have a password of a set of keys that are all right next to each other. So you can do UIOP or ZAQ1 or even ZXCV. See, those combinations are all keys that are right next to each other. There's something that can be entered in quick. They are fast, and when you're in the middle of something and you still want to be secure, but you want to be able to put in your password quickly, then use a key sequence of keys that are all right next to each other on your keyboard, and then you can still be secure but still be very fast. That brings us to way number 85, and that is to store files locally instead of in the cloud. So we're becoming more and more of a cloud-based society. And Microsoft predicts that within the year 2023 that 90% of storage will be on the cloud. Now, that may sound a little bit far-fetched, but the way things are going, the cloud is understood to be extremely secure, and it seems to be the way a lot of things are going. If you think about storage of, for example, your email, when you read your email from your device and you use an IMAP type reading device, or you're on the IMAP setup for your email is actually on the cloud. It doesn't actually live on your device. It's not like you're downloading your email like in the olden days with the POP3 and the POP, where your email is actually downloaded onto your computer and you're actually reading it from a file that's on your computer. For the most part, most emails live on a server someplace else. Otherwise, in other words, they are like a cloud, where data is stored on a server someplace else outside of your computer. So, it's nice and secure, but it has two problems. Number one, you must have internet in order to access them. That's number one. And number two, it takes the amount of time that it takes to retrieve that information from the internet can be done a whole lot faster if that file is saved locally. So if you want to have faster access to your files, store them on your local C drive or on an external drive. Because the amount of time that it takes to request it from something that's local, like right there in the same exact machine, instead of having the computer having to request that information from some server someplace else, it'll take less time if it is done locally than on the cloud. This brings us to way number 86, and that is to use system configuration to boot to the max number of processors. So if you open up if you type into your search bar or click your start button or reach the search button somewhere in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, or even open up Cortana on Windows 10, type the letters M as in Mary, S like Sam, and then the word config, which is short for configuration. So ms config, and then press enter. A system configuration screen will open up. There's a tab that is labeled boot. Within the boot tab, there's a button that says advanced. When you click advanced, there's a section on there that says something to the effect of number of boot processors. So if you have a dual core processor, it will allow you to select 2 processors. If you have a quad core, it will allow you to select 4 processors. So whatever options it gives you, you want to select the highest option. So in some cases, if you have an octa-core or even a 10-core, and I understand that there are even some 16 and 20-core machines now, whatever number of processors it allows you to select in that drop-down menu of processors used for booting, select that highest number, then click apply and OK, and you'll get much faster boot times. You'll also get faster computer operations because it's starting to utilize more of the multi-core circuitry that is inside of the computer. That brings us to way number 87, and that's to run disk cleanup. So disk cleanup is different from is different from check disk, which we discussed in an earlier episode. But running disk cleanup is a feature. If you were to right-click your C drive and then click Properties, you should see a button there for disk cleanup. After you click the disk cleanup button, it'll give you a list of checkboxes. One of which is temp files, and then there's the recycle bin, along with a whole bunch of other areas of the computer that may have residual files that are no longer needed. If you check off all those files and all of those boxes, and then click to clean disk, or to actually run the disk cleanup, your computer will actually have better performance because it's not being bogged down with these extra files that are no longer needed. Running check disk cleanup I would recommend doing that once a month, unless you already have another piece of program that's doing it automatically for you. But if it is not being done automatically, I would recommend under normal use to have that done once a month. That brings us to way number 88, and that is to look up registry tweaks. So in the computer, to talk a little bit about the registry, there are hundreds of thousands of switches and ways that things that the computer uses as far as options of how it's going to operate. Whenever a new program is installed, there are extra registry things that are added into the computer's registry, because every program will change slightly the way the computer works overall. There are some programs that should automatically start running when you turn on the computer, for example. So those all require registry changes. Now, every so often, you might want to go in and have the registry tweaked in such a way that it maximizes your performance. There are some registry tweaker pieces of software, one of which is called CCleaner. CCleaner is a great way to optimize or tweak your registry, and what it does is it sweeps through and it finds the most common things that would slow your computer down from a registry perspective. And once those are all enhanced and optimized, you'll notice better performance from your computer, especially when opening, closing programs, and booting and shutting down. CCleaner is just one of many. You may find out that registry cleaners and sweepers are part of lots of other pieces of software that do maintenance on the computer. So they'll just add that registry cleaner as like an added bonus add-on. So the one that I recommend is CCleaner. There are many others, but that's the only one that I recommend. That brings us to way number 89, and that is to look up hardware requirements for specialized software. So this goes hand in hand with taking time to learn the software, but at the same time you want to look up the hardware requirements for the specialized software. So there might be requirements for the platform and the version of the operating system, for example, but there are some pieces of software that require a certain amount of available memory or a certain amount of available RAM even to run. Some even require a certain type of graphic card or other type of framework even that may need to be ran on the computer in order for this to be for it to operate properly. Now, even if the computer does not meet all of the requirements, that doesn't necessarily mean that the program will fail. Some programs will still run, but they'll just run terribly if you don't have the necessary hardware, or you haven't done your proper research about what hardware requirements for the specialized software. If you're trying to look for a piece of software, you're not sure if it is if your system is capable of running it, you could always give us a call at the Computer Doctor of Tucson. We'll be happy to answer those questions for you and help you with your research. Our phone number is 520-261-5508, and we'll be happy to help you with that. That brings us on to way number 90, and that is to have a notebook and pen handy. And this is not necessarily directed specifically for the computer, but it's more of a social hack that it's much faster to pick up a pen and write something down on a sheet of paper right next to your computer than it is to open up a program and start typing a message. So what inevitably happens whenever you're working on a large project is interruptions, either by someone walking into the office or someone interrupting you, or you getting a phone call or text or another email. It's a lot faster to just pick up a pen and just jot down something that you can look into later than stopping your work, opening a program, and typing in a message. This is a very, very old recommendation that I had an old boss who's a millionaire, and that is how he ran his business for many, many years. And he has a series of composition notebooks, and he likes the composition notebooks because the pages don't tear out. And every time he fills up one composition notebooks, he just goes on to the next composition notebooks. You could buy these composition notebooks for extremely cheap at these back-to-school sales every year. You can probably get maybe 10 for $1 in some cases at Walmart. But if you have a nice long supply of these books, just keep one book at your desk and you'll always have paper. And just keep a good pen nearby and you'll always have something to write something down quick without having to take the speed away from your computer. So that is it for this episode of Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks, which is sponsored by Computer Doctor of Tucson. We do amazing things over the phone with our phone support across the United States. Our main phone number again is 520-261-5508, or visit our website at computerdoctor.xyz. Computer Doctor of Tucson, because technology is great when it works. Regardless of what platform you're listening to this podcast, there is a share button. We please ask you to help us out and share this episode with friends, family, colleagues on social media, email, or direct them to our website at www.techshow.xyz. Stay tuned for more episodes of our show. Until then, see you next time.
This episode of Technology Frustrations and Gimmicks is sponsored by Computer Doctor of Tucson, because technology is great when it works. For more of our podcasts, visit techshow.xyz or wherever you listen to your podcasts.